Good evening, Rando fans. We're coming to you here tonight with qualifier number 6 for the Link to the Past Randomizer main tournament. This is the 6th qualifier out of, I think, 18 here. We're featuring saltyphry and Flipheal tonight, coming at you live from the Rando Dome here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I am joined here in the commentary booth by my pal Clear Mouse. Clear Mouse, how are you doing tonight?
I am really excited. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Well, but I'm just really excited. We are, as you mentioned, 6th qualifier out of the total of 18, and the the qualifier seats have been quite the roller coaster of emotions. So I think back in the first qualifier we actually had our very first sub-hour finish. And and then some of the other subsequent seats have been, I would say, quite the journey in order to go and be able to find the boots, find the hammer, finish out the game. I'm excited and ready to hear and see what this qualifier has in store for us.
Yeah, we've had 58-minute finishes. We've had first place 1 hour and 50-minute finishes, give or take. We've had some wild ones here in the first 5 seeds. But we hopefully will have a fun one tonight, and we've got 2 very qualified runners, saltyphry and Flipheal. I did not get a chance to check and see before here how they'd been doing in their previous qualifiers, but I know both of them highly capable runners.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so like saltyphry and Flipheal, both, as you said, 2 very talented runners, veterans of the community. They have actually been around for quite some time, and you name a tournament, they've probably been in the tournament. And in fact, actually, saltyphry recently, I think last night or maybe the night before, just recently took his semifinals quarter finish from the 80s tourney as well. So clearly, they know what they're doing when it comes to rando.
Yep. And they both know what they're doing, but they both have their separate preferences for starting location. We see the 3 bombs from Flipheal, who looks to be starting with the Uncle route here, whereas saltyphry has decided to start from Sanctuary, getting the 20 rupees there, and head directly into Lost Woods.
Yeah, and of course, actually, so, as the qualifiers kind of keep progressing, we actually get to see, these types of openings kind of like more and more common, and these openings, maybe it's more meta, just maybe more, what people's preferences are, and maybe also could be, due to some tournament settings, this is open mode, but it has a slightly modified hard item pool, and the fact that we have 48 heart pieces in the total pool, that will actually replace some of maybe like the early, the lesser valued rupees. Maybe could induce maybe like an earlier Uncle start. Another one seemingly is people are seeming to skip the lumberjack check more and more often. One, we don't really need boots, and maybe also too, it's maybe it's a higher priority in order to get a little bit more coverage. Against like a big qualifier seat as this.
Right. Yeah. So we see Flipheal. He got his 3 bombs at least from Link's house. Didn't get any other value out of the Uncle check, but he's going to go ahead and get.
Wow, speaking of very important early resources, Fry just bought the mirror from the bottle vendor. Dude, that is, and then certainly, there have been some pretty early other seasons in the qualifier where early money has definitely been very much an issue. Not only necessarily just because of like smaller amounts where you couldn't even buy bombs, so you have to actually have to travel, do the well multiple times in order to farm some stuff, right? And then fall down and get bombs from the shop and then go back and get the bomb lock. It's extra minutes actually in Kakariko. But not only this, we have actually a very major progression item right here in Kakariko.
Right. And Fry did get a little bit of luck there in that he got the 300 out of the Lost Woods drop. So he had the money to come in and buy bombs, take care of the bottle merchant as well on his first way through. And now he's going to route back up to some of the more item-dense spots in Blind's Hut and the Kakariko Well. Whereas Flipheal coming in with bombs and money is going to be able to just kind of do the normal north to south route here.
Yeah, of course, you're right. And Flipheal taking the early Uncle route, and not anything major in terms of progression. You did get a little bit of extra money that can certainly help him in his later purchase ventures, such as, Sora, most likely Pod, any other amount of, like mini games, stick game, chess game. But of course, so we're actually getting some pretty good things, here in Kakariko so far. Also found a cape. and a glove. All right, so glove does open up. Ooh. All right, so another potential here change here for the tournament hard modified item pool. We actually do notice that we do in fact can get silvers without first getting the bow. So early silvers certainly is going to be a little bit of nicety. Nicety in the later game especially.
Right. And Eastern Palace is, in fact, a crystal, so we already know we are going to be finding that bow at some point this seed. So it'll be nice for these runners to be able to have the silver arrows to use along with that just as soon as we find that item.
Right, yeah. And I think the fact that we do have non-progressive bows here in the tournament pool, it's actually, I think it actually does affect routing very slightly, just because you are definitely not going to be able to get that scenario, let's say in pod, right? Where, you're going to find like a bow lock bow or something like that.
Yeah. So we did see Ether there from Blind's Hut. saltyphry is going to exit out immediately, not leave Blind's Hut to go back down and check the library and race game. So we will have to kind of keep in mind if we see something down there on flip side, Fry is not going to have that information early.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, having the mirror, if you can get into Dark World, you can stop and mirror those together pretty quickly and knock those out. Flipheal is doing his same route, coming in, doing Blind's Hut first, and then he's going to work his way kind of counterclockwise through the town, and then probably get those library and race game checks. So we'll find out together if we, have any kind of information disadvantage for saltyphry early there from those two checks.
Yeah, and especially being in a qualifier race such as this, certainly actually like this particular race has 120 people, pretty large in terms of numbers. And your strategy is certainly going to potentially be a little bit different versus if you were playing like a one-on-one race, right? One-on-one, the goal in your case is just to win. You are racing against one specific person. Certainly could be a lot of metagaming going on. In a big qualifier race, especially for someone for this particular tournament, we're trying to basically make the top 128. You probably actually just want to secure a spot, right? So you can move on to groups and brackets. And so, depending on what your risk tolerance is, maybe you're willing to, take a little bit of extra time and check some out of the way locations. Ooh, there is a nice ice rod here, just sitting here in the sunken treasure. Or you could also maybe be a little bit more aggressive and or try and cut some corners.
Yeah. And one thing that I think maybe will probably come into mind for both of these runners, we did see the map check there a little bit later from Fry, but we have 2 pendants in the light world, which means 6 of our Dark World dungeons are going to be crystals. And typically the Dark World dungeons are the ones that require more items to get to. So even more so than I think, a normal seed, you're going to want to avoid skipping items here. Try and get as much, density in your routing as possible, just to make sure that you get everything. Like that hammer.
Yeah, like the hammer in this case. Unfortunately, Bob's being a little bit finicky for Fry, but otherwise, gets the job done. But yeah, we've got a hammer, we've got a glove. Well, let's find that moon pearl wherever it may be.
Yeah, so we're going to head on over here to Ice Rod Cave. One advantage from Flip's early routing is that he did get a little bit extra money. So if he goes South Shore here, he's going to be coming down with at least another extra 100 rupees on Fry from his routing.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Well, just like looking at Fry's rupee count now, especially at this stage. I mean, unless he gets something pretty nice from Ice Rock Cave, the prospect of farming money, for Zora, which by the way, of course, is in logic with the glove, it's just really not appealing, right? Because every single time you have to enter in is only 20 rupees, so it can actually be quite the time investment.
Yeah, I would expect Fry to cut off his route here unless he finds flippers or, boots or something like that gives him a good reason to keep going. I did not see what the item was on Race Game, but I did see that Flip was not interested in picking it up.
Yeah, so I saw the right-hand side of a 10 arrow pack, potentially. Or maybe I just saw 0. So, okay, all right. So chat is confirming that it is money. Looks like Flip is not interested.
All right. Anyway, he's going to get the back of escape done, and Fry's going to head up here. Fry having the hammer in hand is probably going to go do the 2 uncle checks here, but then continue on into Hyrule Castle, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, and so of course it's gonna be one difference between Fry and Fry and Flipheal. As you mentioned, just because with that hammer we actually have a permanent weapon to be able to actually take down the front of escape, and and it's actually kind of nice to be able to see Fry doing escape on the earlier side, just because it is. Well, you've got 3 items here in the front, or potentially, right? So it could actually be, pretty lucrative spot for you. And of course, like the later you kind of put off doing escape, like the harder it is to kind of come back to it. I mean, potentially maybe if you make a pyramid visit, you can combine it with the mirror. But once kind of like you get more access, right? You've got Moon Pearl, you've got Dark World access, maybe you got Myths, so you can do even more stuff in both like World and Dark World. The chances of just coming back to like a Sphere 1, chunk, right? It just seems like it's like, well, I can go do all these other things, so it just seems less and less appealing.
Right.
And of course, if there is something important here, you certainly don't want to put yourself in that kind of position.
And a good point from the chat as well, which is that Fry already has the information that we've already seen the map and the small key for Hyrule Castle in the back of Escape, so he knows this is all items in the front here. Flipheal is continuing his route down South Shore, where we just see a heart piece there from Fry in the map chest.
Yeah, I certainly hope that you guys like seeing heart pieces because, well, there are 48 of them in the pool, and so you're going to see them a lot.
Right. And we did see, early on, we saw at the mushroom spot in the Lost Woods, we saw the heart container there. There is a lowered number of the full heart containers in the seed, due to the item changes as well. I think there are only 5 in this, whereas you would normally count on, I think, 8+ from
it's either 4 or 5. Might have to like refresh my memory, but yeah, it's definitely on the lower side, and I think that's kind of like a consequence, or the intention of this particular item set is that, well, so you kind of want your health progression to kind of grow slower. So potentially, when we do find Moon Pearl, we are going to be in this case, going to Dark World, probably on maybe 5, 6, 7 hearts, something like that. Oh, okay. Fry made a pretty good decision. Those are the flippers. Given that, well, we're certainly going to need them logically, and as you pointed out earlier, the fact that there are 2 pendants here in the Light World gives a pretty strong indication that Swamp Palace really could be a crystal. Flipheal, please be careful here.
Oh boy. There's very smart tactic there to
that was
jump
really
in the
good.
water and get the iframes there. Fry is going to have a fun time here trying to navigate swordless dark rooms leading to Dark Cross here. It looks like he's putting on the cape here for the first room with the 6 ropes in it. And I think I heard the door or the stairs sound, so I think he's probably mostly on his way here.
Yeah, and you can kind of feel, since I think we do have his audio on, so you kind of hear, some of the bats kind of flying around. So that's certainly, a good audio cue for him. All right, so we did get the last item. Fry is a lot richer now, which is $300, and actually that's going to be pretty good news for Flipheal, assuming he goes to the back, because that's definitely going to put him way over, at least like the Zor money.
Yeah, and I think you'll see Fry come down here and get the flipper checks out of the way as well as Flip here once he gets his flippers
Flipheal getting flippers.
Did you see what was on? Did you see what was on the island?
So my answer is yes. However, it went exactly out of my memory. It looks like maybe according to myths, according to chat, were those myths on the island?
Those were in fact some myths sitting on the island there.
Well, that seems pretty important, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would expect both of our runners, likely to get that information here, in Flipheal's case very shortly. I would expect them to make something of a beeline once we get Dark World access towards those myths, because those are going to aid in routing, especially with the mirror already in hand, obviously, to get that. It's going to make routing a lot smoother for, the Dark World side of the seed.
Yeah, and I guess for what it's worth, right? I think the the previous couple of qualifier states all had MITS access Dark World. The hammer was buried pretty deep, after that. So certainly really refreshing to be able to have an early hammer. And as you said, that early hammer not only, of course, opens up all the Dark World portals that you have instead of just that one in Kakariko, it makes routing significantly nicer and easier.
So Flip's getting his flippers there, choosing to take the Death Warp to get back up and get a refill on his health before going into the Dark Rooms here.
Yeah, right. The fact that he is taking this Death Warp probably indicates that he is going to try and venture his way into Dark Cross as well.
And we certainly hope that Flip chooses to follow those flippers after this, because sitting there on the Zora ledge, there is our Dark World access. There's the Moon Pearl.
Well, all right. So so Fry, certainly a veteran, knows what he's doing in Rando. He looks like he has followed the logic and the items, pretty well. So, and as you said, right, the one that we have Moon Pearl. Oh my gosh, and a sword. So good thing we found that early money.
Yeah, no, early money. Like this is
awesome.
certainly, you cannot complain as a runner about this seed. You just follow. Just go where the items tell you to go. You get the flippers, you go do the water checks, you get the, just easy game, right?
Yes, absolutely. We can, of course, say this, not even 15 minutes into the seed, I'm sure the seed won't, have some terrible surprise for us later on.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's something.
That's never happened before.
No,
where a seed has started out really nice and then been awful late. We already have the ice rod. Like there's absolutely nothing that can go wrong this time, though.
Yes,
I mean,
certainly no one has ever heard of a non-ice rod go mode in this case.
Exactly. It's not like a medallion has ever stopped anybody.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's right. Ooh, all right, quick map check. I caught the pendant was in Skull Woods.
That was all I caught as well. I did not catch the red crystals. Godspeed to our tracker, Sammy Moss, who has been doing a great job.
Right, yeah. I mean, in fact, Sammy even caught the Light World map check as well. I mean, she is, doing lots of hard work here for us.
And there's a second sword in a row for Fry, which is going to be nice for Dark World navigation. And a hook shot there in the back of Hype Cave.
Jeez, all right. So okay, we have actually quite a bit of nice items actually already.
Yeah. And as expected, he's going to walk down here over to the Dark Hylia area, I'd imagine, unless he may actually be going straight into Swamp Palace here. Of course, that makes sense.
Actually, yeah, this is actually potentially interesting because Flip looks like he is going to get at least he has some knowledge now about the myths on Lake Hylia, but you
gotta do one thing there, Fry.
It's okay, Fry. Fry's already thinking like I've got the hook shot, I've got the mirror. Got the flippers, I'm going to do Swamp Palace right now. He is probably like 5 steps ahead in his mind. The execution and the presence, person hasn't quite caught up just yet.
Y'all can see what it's like now. For me, like, I can't remember that Swamp Palace exists, but, if I see it light on my tracker, while I'm in Hype Cave as, solid green, I'm going there. And I think that, not to say that, Fry wasn't anticipating this like I wasn't, but, it certainly is nice to be able to come in and full clear a dungeon here, a full clear crystal dungeon at 16 minutes that has, 4 or 5 required items gating it.
Yeah, and the fact that there are a good number of items here in Swamp Palace and stuff. I mean, so like the fact that Fry's coming in here, with just a fighter sword, master sword. Sorry, that's right. We picked up another sword. Is the Argus fight wouldn't necessarily be like the most pleasant, but there's a lot of potential here for another item. And of course, we know where the myths are. That's certainly a very much required item, but they're not going to necessarily help it here inside Swamp Palace, right? And maybe if we, let's say, find a fire source, Fry can maybe, pick up the myths and then just dive straight into Ice Palace.
That is a good point. Yeah, he could very well end up taking that route here. He is on, kind of low health here. No, he does have the cape, but not a lot of magic, and no other real safeties to speak of at this point. So, you will have to be careful. This dungeon is not overly difficult, but without the boots, you're putting yourself in a lot more kind of risk with some of the little water enemies that have kind of erratic movements and stuff. And they can deal a bunch of damage in a hurry. So he will have to be careful coming through here.
Yeah, and of course, another consequence of this particular item set for the hard mode is that there is also no armor. You know, we are going to be seeing a lot of green outline link and the traditional, you know, piranha plants. It's and you know, a couple of things you mentioned this. You know, 6 hearts, maybe from coming up with a little bit more safety here. No half magic. We saw them both pick up the small magic decanter. You know, from Hobo. Yeah, it's oh my gosh.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
dude.
fine.
All right. So the difficulty level has actually just been alleviated a little bit because now we could potentially actually kill Argus and dash to our heart's content with those boots. You know, so for those of you who decided to skip out or could not make this qualifier and had to play some of the early qualifier seeds where basically went either bootsless or, you know, 2-hour boots or something like that, well, sorry. This is quite the treat.
Yeah, so those boots certainly do make the rest of this dungeon go by quicker. Flip did not choose to go into Swamp Palace, at least directly here. He is going to get those mitts first, so we'll see if he, you know, comes back into Swamp or if he routes it a little bit differently here.
Yeah, I mean the fact that right. So as you did mention, right. So we have the mirror, we have mitts, we have hammer. All of Dark World is open to us, and we can actually do it in a very efficient manner. So in this case,
yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here, but you know what Flip can do here, and what he may be well inclined to do is, you know, seeing we get a bottle there from the waterfall room in Swamp, he may be inclined to say, you know, hey, if I just go north Dark World, south, I can do everything in the Dark World right now. I've got mitts, I've got hammer, I can full clear Thieves Town, I can, you know, I can just ignore Skull Woods, do everything else. I've got cape even. You know, he can do literally everything here, and then I'll route it all the way back down to Swamp and finish there with, you know, Purple Chest, and maybe you find book on the way for Bombo's tablet or whatever. So that's.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you explicitly said avoid Skull Woods. I am, by the way, 100% agreeing with you. I do not agree here with what Flipheal is doing. He is diving straight into Skull Woods here. Somehow he is believing in the fact that maybe Skull Woods front especially might have some amount of progression.
Yeah, and I don't think that's an unreasonable play. It's probably a slower check that I would look to avoid right now in the seed, given how much is open to him. But again, this is a qualifier, and these runners, you know, they're going to be playing this more conservatively than you would see, you know, once we get into the one-on-ones in group stages later on. They're definitely going to be playing here, you know, try to clear as many checks as you can, as efficiently as you can, is kind of almost the name of the game, more so than just, you know, trying to finish as fast as possible. You're just trying to keep yourself from getting wrecked here. So that may be the thinking behind this.
Yeah, I mean, and you actually, you know, we talk about, you know, these runners being, you know, very talented. You actually see some really nice execution, you know, kind of on both sides. Fry taking down Argus, you know, with a Master Sword. I mean, Flipheal had a really nice statue room. When these rooms look so smooth and so easy, like, you know that the runners are good. Because if you've ever tried these rooms, they are really not easy.
Yeah. One thing that we did see there is that Fry chose not to do left side swamp. I know there is at least one item there, because I think we saw either map or compass in the first chest, but I don't know if we saw both of them. So, you know, just something to kind of file away there. That is one of the longest kind of checks in the game, pretty much. Especially when you're coming back through there in a second trip into Skull Woods, where you can't even do the diver down trick to... can't even do the trick to get through there quickly. So, you know, that's something that if we have, you know, progression item there, that could be something he doesn't make it back to for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, so right, so the was the decision for left side swamp, and actually this is going to be a potential another consequence, right, of Fry, you know, doing the Swamp Palace early. You know, by the time that Flipheal ends up getting into Swamp Palace, he is actually going to have a lot more of Dark World and Light World, for that matter, cleared out. He is probably going to be able to make a slightly better, more informed decision of whether or not he wants to try and go for that one item, right?
That is a very good point. Yeah, so you know, if Flip finds, you know, another flute and a medallion on his way through Thieves Town, or finds a cane of Samaria or something like that, you know, that may factor into his decision making here as well.
I'm not actually sure what was on Lumberjack. I only saw like the couple bottom pixels. I would like to venture on and say it was a heart piece on Lumberjack.
That is.
But it was a very very quick and small clip, so I'm not really sure if someone else would have been able to catch it.
Yeah. I did not catch it either. We are getting our first look here at the chest game in Village of Outcasts. Another 300.
Jeez,
so certainly no money issues this seed today.
Yeah, all right. Looks like the Flipheal, after his, I would say, a less than fruitful venture into Skull Woods, I believe I saw a heart piece in the front. Not sure. I assume there was one more item in the back. It looks like he decided to take a north route versus going into the Village of Outcasts and check out Graveyard Ledge, potentially making. Well, I mean, he could certainly go venture over to Catfish. Of course, again, maybe this is not necessarily his like one-on-one strategy, but of course in the big qualifier, it is something to consider to do some more out-of-the-way locations. You see him kind of doing a double take for that. Maybe he has pod on his mind after he spent 500 rupees.
Yeah, that could have been pod, or it could have been just a little bit of extra money if he was planning to go south and make sure he could get race game in there as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Race game. Dig game cost 80 rupees.
Or dig game. Yeah. Yep, yeah. That's what it is in the Dark World. I played this game before, I swear.
Maybe just once or twice, but everyone of course knows what with these games.
But regardless, he's going to get bailed out by the 300 there in chest game, if nothing else. So, no big deal.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, so it looks like maybe Flipheal actually just wanted to, get some more extra knowledge. And again, doing out of the way Graveyard Ledge check. Doesn't want to, in this case, put himself in an unfortunate position where if he just invests an extra, let's say, 45 seconds to do one check versus, last location, and 30 minutes later, that's when you go back to it.
Right. Yeah. That check isn't as bad, especially if you have either the mitts or the boots to go in the top route there. The Graveyard Ledge check is not that bad. So, having mitts in his case, certainly not a gigantic time investment versus, leaving progression there for the rest of the seed.
Yeah, and of course, speaking of different time investments, and of course, this is just how Rando goes, right? There are only one pair of boots in this case, and Fry was very fortunate enough to be able to find it in Swamp Palace, right? We were kind of seeing, in this case, Fry and Flipheal going to, do a little bit of a high five here, Village of Outcasts. Flipheal is going to enter Thieves Town in very shortly, but the fact that Fry had basically boots at something like 20 minutes or something like that. Nice cape dash here in the hallway. It's definitely he's just going to incrementally, gain more time on Flipheal until Flipheal goes into Swamp and gets his boots.
Yeah, and for sure, Thieves Town is one of those dungeons that just has so many straight lines in it that boots speed it up as much as any dungeon in the game, along with maybe, Swamp and Eastern Palace, I feel like. So this is one where he will gain a good bit of time on Flip, just from being able to move more efficiently in this throughout this dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, the game in general is meant to be played, with boots. Certainly you don't obviously start out with them, as you said, like going into Eastern Palace, you see a lot of, like long hallways, but once you get in the vanilla game, beat Eastern Palace, get the green pendant and the boots, the second place you go to, right, is Desert Palace. So many long hallways, just like Thieves Town, really to kind of demonstrate the power, and then the efficiency of being able to dash everywhere.
Right, yeah, it's always interesting when you have games that kind of train you to use the items like that in more subtle ways than just, here's a barrier that you have to overcome with it. So it's kind of one of those neat things, but it does make playing the game itself, in the randomized version, a little bit of a slog if you don't have that ability in some of these dungeons. And this is certainly one of them that was designed around the boots for sure.
Yeah, of course, and we're actually going to see some differences here right now. Potentially Fry was maybe counting items. Looks like he was actually dashing to the big chest, and I'm sure he's been counting up, better than probably than at least me. Most likely recognized that it was going to be either map or compass in the big chest.
Yeah, no, I think that was. I was not counting either, but I don't remember seeing either map or compass at this point. Right. So
that is, so typically speaking, I think a lot of people potentially, just look at their key counter after blind sell, right? It's like, oh, okay, if it's 1, I'll go check it. If it's 0, small key is locked within itself in the big chest. This is really a nice time save, for runners who are keeping track of items and dungeons. Holy
Everything's
cow.
fine. Everything is fine.
Oh, all right. Oh.
I wasn't scared. You were scared.
No, of course not. All right, so yeah, so typically speaking, you know, most runners are very comfortable, you know, with the blind fight once they kind of get into it. But it looks like there was a hit that didn't quite land the way it was intended, and but luckily, you know, Fry escaped. Well, alive.
Thankfully, Fry picked up those 2 extra hearts down in Blind's on the way to Blind's cell, or actually on the way back. That got him up to 4 hearts because he needed every single one of those to stay alive through the end of that fight.
Oh, all right, some more efficiency here. Picking up after you'll be able to turn his bottle here. It's his sick kid, just 3 bombs though.
And this is going to give him, assuming he remembers to kind of do the slightly unorthodox route here, this is going to be his first look at library and race game as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, and again, this is having the mirror. It basically allows you to have, you know, this efficiency. Fry again. I think in his mind he is like 10 steps. He's like, because you know he has all this stuff, right, and he has so many things open to him. He's like, he probably does have a plan to do everything. You know, he just needs to, you know, follow through and not get too ahead of himself. Right.
Yeah. Nice little 1 dig race game heart there. We'll take that. Did not see a mirror there on the ledge there, so we're going to come back and mirror down here for race game instead of kind of at the cross keys entrance there.
I like the name cross keys entrance. That is certainly an incredibly common place to mirror when you're playing cross keys in this case.
Right, because usually that is the only access that you have to that location. But yeah, just 10 arrows over there, so no real difference for him in terms of how he chose to route it. And now he's gonna kind of take the Smith back home here, get the library checked. Then probably come right back down.
That is, yeah. I mean, and this is, I think, kind of a consequence. It's like, you know, it's once if you don't mirror here, you know, pretty often, which, you know, certainly very understandably you don't. You know, it's very easy to mirror bonk.
Yes, yeah. There's not an obvious place to mirror bonk there, and Fry showed you kind of the worst case of that, and is showing you again that. Where you leave your portal is just as important here.
Yes, as potentially pointed out here in chat, you know, maybe this is a good training for inverted. Which, by the way, inverted is actually, so if you can actually make it past the qualifiers to qualify for the top 128 as part of groups and brackets, we're actually going to have a couple more new modes available as part of the tournament, and inverted actually is going to be one of them. So potentially, you know, brush up on your mirror locations.
Yeah, inverted definitely a favorite of the fans here in Sioux Falls.
I'm glad to hear that, actually, Will.
Yeah. They've been very excited to see the kind of reverse routing and kind of the new decisions that get prompted by that game mode. We're turning in our Smith here, and on both sides actually, and so we'll get to see what the Frog Smith has for us today. Or actually, we just saw on Fry.
Oh, but we're gonna see here on Flipheal side, you know, momentarily.
I'm paying attention, I swear.
Oh, actually, did we see that on Fry's side?
Okay,
Okay.
He had me thinking that I had missed it by going ahead and grabbing the purple chest.
Fry here is definitely also showing us that you can grab the purple chest without actually claiming the prize from the Smith. That is some pretty useful knowledge. You know, you may not necessarily think it was important until you end up, well, forgetting your progression item on the Smith itself. So it's a very, very nice lesson to kind of keep in the back of your head.
Yeah, and he did one extra check into the Smith house just to make sure there weren't any extra items laying around. So I think we got everything now. And Flip's going to be on the same route here, heading down to take his purple chest to see old Stumpy and K45, and then probably he's going to dive into Swamp Palace, and we'll see where Fry chooses to go instead.
Yeah, and I guess like momentarily, this is probably going to be one of those you know, areas where, in this case, Fry and Flip are probably on the same footing in terms of, you know, execution ability. In that, even though Fry does have the boots, for this little segment here, you can't really do anything with the purple chest. Now, of course, Fry is also showing us, well, he's done all of his other stuff here in the Dark Book, Oh Hello Book. Actually, that is somewhat convenient, actually.
That is quite convenient, yeah.
Yeah, and so in this case, Fry's just going to leave the purple chest behind. He's going to go talk to the locksmith. Me are basically on the same screen, and then, well, magically the purple chest is going to be with them. Flipheal in this case is not going to have that option.
Yeah, the trick with this one is just as long as you leave the purple chest in the dark world here, and then mirror on the screen. You can't mirror anywhere else on the way over here. Which is why he did it after K45, and we get a tempered sword from the purple chest.
This seed is has been super kind. This might just be, you know, the balance for this qualifier seed versus some of the other ones.
And now Fry's going to get to route directly into Bombo's tablet and possibly just straight into Desert here. It's a pendant, but you know it is 2 items. You get Desert Ledge, you get the Agena check here. You got all this sitting over here.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Looks like that's actually exactly what he's going to do. Most likely Flipheal after Bombo's tablet, my guess is he is, well, you know, he has not completed Swamp Palace. He will probably actually just turn around. Because that is going to be another, you know, clerical crystal for him. And of course, you know, a difference after his extremely long journey, you know, into delivering the purple chest, and he has now tempered sword, you know, versus Fry, which only had master sword in order to beat Argus. But you know what? Flipheal is following exactly what Fry is doing. He's also going to check out Desert Palace as well.
And I can see the logic behind this because, you know, for him, you're save and quit away from Link's house, which is right next to Swamp Palace anyway. So you can get back to that pretty much whenever you want. Desert is, you know, especially if Flute is sitting over here or something like that. This is not going to be an easy thing to get back to. And with a pendant, you don't feel bad if this ends up being boots locked. Necessarily.
Yeah, so Flipheal probably is, you know, thinking that.
And Chad has also pointed out correctly that we don't have a fire source to actually complete the dungeon yet. So for right now, the only thing we can do is the front 5 items for Fry, and potentially, okay, we're going to be able to see a little bit more of the dungeon here on Flip's side as well, getting the small key there out of the map chest.
Yeah. Oh, that unfortunately got in Fry's way to unfortunately like couldn't get his dash in. But we are going to see in this case, you know, some of the power of the boots. You know, Desert Palace. I mean, just so many long hallways. And in this case, like Fry's most likely gonna finish out Desert before Flip does.
All right, so we've seen 1 item there on the right side, just a heart piece, but we do have the big key. So this dungeon is logically completable without the boots. That said, you know, unless we find a fire source here in the big chest, neither of these runners is going to be able to complete the dungeon at this time. And given its status as a pendant, probably not something they're going to rush back for either.
I was actually wondering in this case if even if like like we do find a fire source here, I'm not even sure like how appealing it is going to be in this case to finish.
Right? Yeah. You know, clearing a longish back of the dungeon like Desert. For no item would probably not be something that these runners would do. But that said, we do know that there is an item back there on Landmo, so we will be leaving that behind here. Flip's going to be taking... He had to take the long way out of here one way or the other, coming in from the main entrance. So he's going to head back out and check Agena, whereas Fry is going to, I think, maybe go up to the mountain here.
Yeah, that actually, yeah. So right, so it looks like, oh, we're gonna get some boots locations checked. Oh, he didn't do Bonk Rocks. Okay. Oh, he did Kingston earlier, but I guess no Bonk Rocks. Maybe he just wasn't in this area earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And chat points out correctly that Flip was heading back there, and then finally kind of realized, oh wait, I'm missing a little something there.
Well, you know, the fact that, you know, like, so it's, you know, you're always gonna make, you know, mistakes. You're always gonna be 10 steps ahead of yourself because you think that I have so much open to me, right? It is also, I was considered to be a skill to recognize and to stop your route early if you end up, you know, changing directions or you know, realizing you don't have something. It's really, really nice for Flip to be able to stop, you know, basically right at the beginning of Desert 2, right? As opposed to he gets all the way to the big chest, right? Or the big key, the big key door, and it's just like, oh. Right.
So Fry's going to give us our first look up here at Death Mountain. Now, this is not in logic because we have not found either the lamp or the flute at this point to get us up here. That said, we have access to nearly every item up here other than anything blocked by Turtle Rock. So, you know, at this time, I perfectly understand the decision to go out of logic and come up here. You may even get some information on finding lamp or flute and know be able to kind of start narrowing down locations where those items could
Mhm.
show up down in the base of the world.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point, especially for I would certainly expect no less, both from Fry and Flipheal, but since Fry is here up on the mountain, if he happens in this case find a lamp or the flute, right, he knows that the other one cannot possibly be here on the mountain, right? So somewhere else off the mountain is going to be the other one. And especially in this case, if he finds, let's say, the lamp up here, he knows that the flute is somewhere like accessible. Maybe it's on Catfish or something like that, right? But
Right.
that is, and especially for Meyer being a crystal, that can certainly very much help him out, basically trying to narrow down where that flute's going to be.
Yeah. Now that said, we did get almost all of our access in logic. Mitts, hammer, boots, mirror, all of this stuff, flippers. Down in logic. So there's still, you may not be able to draw a lot of conclusions. In terms of where things are, because just the net is so large in terms of where things could be. That's interesting. He only chose to do the bottom two there of Tower of Hera, despite it being the green pendant. I thought that might have been a little bit more of an appealing option.
Yeah, and he does have the hook shot too. So of course, with the hook shot and of course with boots, right? Herapod, I think, is a pretty common tech that many runners, including Fry and Flipheal, have in their arsenal.
Also skipping Spiral Cave on his way down here. This is going to make for some kind of potentially interesting routing here with regards to Spiral Cave and Spike Cave while he's here on the mountain, I think.
Yeah, but it certainly looks like he is at least targeting some, easy and item-dense, chunks here in the mountain.
Yeah. That said, especially when you come up here with the boots. Oh, there's our fire rod. That's a nice find.
Yes, that is certainly our, that is a fire source. It's a major fire source, and more importantly, I think it also does open up Ice Palace, so that is completely completable for us.
It also... Just throwing this out there.
So what happens if we find Samaria?
No. I was going to say, finding that fire rod also puts something else in logic. And I know Chad is on top of this.
Interesting components.
Yeah, because now we can clear Skull Woods, we can clear Desert Palace, and we could have already cleared, well, slightly out of logic, but we can clear Tower of Hera as well. Not saying.
Consideration. Certainly could be a consideration.
Not saying, just saying.
So I also want to point out here that Flipheal is looking as he is actually doing a bomb version of Diver Down, going, it looks like, immediately over to the left side of Swamp. So he is actually not going to be making any decisions. He has already cleared out a ton of Dark World in this case. Got one crystal under his belt already, and so he looks like, again, wants to probably be a little bit more thorough. Just gonna clear out the entire dungeon. And in this particular case, right, like the fact that we know that the big key is over here is actually gonna be pretty efficient for him. Because he's gonna be able to take it and then open the big chest and then go kill Argus.
Yeah, the big key is either over here or it's locked in the big chest itself, which so yeah, either way, he's gonna be able to get all the items here in one go. But yeah, to kind of expand on your point, we have definitely seen a difference in philosophy there as we see Quake to open up TR. We've seen a difference in philosophy between these two runners and how they're approaching this qualifier. Fry is playing it a little bit more, not this.
Oh my gosh, dude! As Fry literally just checked entrance into Turtle Rock, this is, oh man. So Flipheal did find the Quick Medallion on left side swamp, which, if you were here just a little bit ago, maybe about 20-30 minutes ago, Fry, decided to skip out on the one item that's in left side swamp.
Yeah, that's
wow.
That's not something he's likely to make it back to anytime soon.
Yes. So of course, if it happens to be in this case, quick go mode, for Fry, which is looking, a little bit more likely, given where the quick medallion is, which is on left side swamp that he skips. At least he can clear out, or he can rule out going into Turtle Rock, right? So that is going to be like a long dungeon, and most likely it's going to be a go mode.
That's the best case scenario is Quake Go mode. If we end up with a bow and GT or something like that,
oh,
then it turns into complete calamity for him. So, you know, that's one thing that we're gonna hope that he makes it back there sooner rather than later. But you know, really, like I said, that best case for him at this point is that Quake is his go mode, and he finds it there. Because it may be at the expense of a couple of other, you know, really slow checks, you know. So, but ooh, that's tough.
Yeah, that's well, you know, of course, this is you know, there is still lots of game left to play. It's not like Fry is, you know, just kind of just I guess like flopping around. You know, he has Ice Rod out. He'll probably finish out these flipper checks and then basically dive straight into Ice Palace. Oh, he just wants a potion. This is actually pretty good thinking, or in this case, a fairy. This is actually pretty good thinking on his part. As part of the item set, in this case, there are 4 bottles placed, but you only get to keep 1 bottle, and it comes empty. So again, it's just another, you know, aspect of making, you know, this the experience is a little bit harder, and so you really have to be a bit cognizant of your health and safety, especially, you know, Ice Palace, Green Mail, not even the second row of hearts, right? Can actually be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, and to answer the question in chat, I don't think we saw any other progression items up on the mountain other than that fire rod, did we?
Not
granted, we skipped a
knowledge.
couple of checks, but yeah, the fire rod I think was the only thing we saw up there at this point.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, hopefully, we can, you know, get more, you know, confirmation via the chat or
and of
Sammy.
course, you know, I don't think we saw Spike Cave, and we didn't see anything from
Yeah,
upstairs of Hera. So, you know, there's still potential for more stuff being up there, but.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you mentioned this earlier, right? It just really seems like this is, you know, part of Fry's maybe strategy, you know, for this particular qualifier. He certainly does look to be a little bit more aggressive, you know, really just targeting, you know, faster, denser locations, right? And not necessarily spending much more time investment in some of the longer checks.
Yeah, and I think that's been apparent, you know, kind of from the drop here, in that just he's been, you know, very focused on, you know, going to density, and it worked really well for him in terms of, you know, getting through the light world portion of the seed where we were finding dark world access, getting that Midis information. But then I think Swamp is where, at least the first time that we've seen, where he's going to get bitten.
Yeah, yeah, as opposed to, like, in this case, Flipheal. Well, he has been, I would say, pretty thorough. You know, not really leaving any locations left once he visits the area.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you know, we saw that again, kind of, you know, with the North Dark World route and a few other places, where he has, you know, taken the time to do a few of the slower checks in the game. But you know, at the same time, the reason why you do those slower checks is exactly that Quake on left side's scenario.
Yep. I think we did kind of allude to this, maybe, you know, a little bit earlier here, you know, during the broadcast as well, is that, well, you know, he certainly is more than fine to be, you know, a little bit more aggressive if you want, but you know, maybe it might be worth to take the extra minute or two, you know, for that investment, only have it turn up empty versus 30 minutes later you have to go back to it. But it looks like, though, yeah, for the most part, I think you mentioned this earlier too, Will. You know, our both Fly and Flipheal were trying to stay mostly in logic, but now, yeah, Flipheal, I think, is ready to basically tackle his own set of really dense locations, but slightly in this case out of logic.
Yeah, and a good point from chat that we did see the magic powder, which we obviously haven't redeemed yet. We did see that on the mountain as well.
Yeah, it looks like Fry. It looks like Flipheal, though, is actually not going to turn in not going to rescue the old man quite yet. Beelining it to East Death Mountain.
Yeah, that's interesting
that
he's.
Maybe he did.
I think he just did Old Man straight over here, I believe.
Oh, that's sorry. He doesn't have a flute to come up here. He had to get the powder in this case. Never mind. I'm all good.
Okay.
All right, he's gonna pick up his fire rod, pick up a little bit more extra money. Meanwhile, Fry, though, is inside Ice Palace.
And there's Kane in the freezer chest, so that is a potentially nice find for him there. A lot of runners try to put off Ice Palace quite a bit in terms of holding out for that red Kane, and we just saw it there in the freezer chest of Ice Palace.
Yeah, that is actually a very, very good point, especially in quite like this large a field, right? In 120 runners we have, including Fry and Flipheal. Ever since the inclusion or legality of, you know, Icebreaker being allowed, you know, and of course it speed ups the dungeon by like multiple minutes, right? And so it's kind of I guess, like, disincentivize runners, or at least like delay Ice Palace very slightly, just so you can maybe hold out for that King of Samaria, right? But as you just said, we just saw on Fry's side, there are reasons why you should still know the Ice Palace bomb jump, for example.
Yeah. That said, unless we see something like we find a bow or something up on the mountain here for Flipheal, I think he's going to make the same play here, to be honest, because you've got a fully clearable Ice Palace here, and you've got only pendant dungeons are in logic otherwise. So, I would not be surprised to see him make it right back over here and do the same set of checks that Fry is doing now.
Yeah, and we're still, after like, well, 40 whatever minutes, we do have like a lot of progression. We're still actually missing some pretty big components. Namely, we do see that we are missing a flute. That will basically at least give us access to the mire area. We can basically certainly check out what medallion we need for entry. But that still blocks off another, in this case, crystal dungeon, right? Only kind of leaving like pendant dungeons or other like scattered about overworld checks.
Yeah. So Flip, of course, is going to open up Turtle Rock there. He's not going to be able to go inside of it, though, because we know where the cane is now. But he is going to get... That
is very true.
Meanwhile, Fry having another dangerous boss fight here.
Fry. Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh, how did he not get hit?
Oh no! He does have the fairy.
He does have the fairy, but we are seeing basically, also the bane of many NMG runners when you're coming here with green mail. Cold Stare, the game assumes you have blue mail at this point. Cold Stare takes 4 hearts of damage. The icicles take 2 hearts. I mean, this is it is very dangerous when Cold Stare does not stay in this corner.
Yeah, but it looks like he has gotten the fight a bit more under control, down to 1 puff now. And if he can stop poking them, please.
He's not one hit KO quite yet. He does have 5 hearts, but man, that was a how would he get combos out of this too? Oh, jeez.
All right. Well,
so I guess the rule of fire also does work in the other way, I guess, as well.
It sure seems like it. We don't know yet if that bombos will be required for Misery Mire entrance, but unfortunately for Fry, that was not the medallion he was hoping to find there, especially now having the cane in hand.
Yeah, Fry certainly has given us a bit more action on his side when he's dealing with bosses. I believe he was also 1 hit away from the blind. But Fry so far has 0 deaths to his name. So
yeah. He has made the necessary moves to prevent these issues. You see him here buying a potion on his way over. Again, that's smart gameplay especially for a qualifier. You don't want a single death to take off, to add 3 minutes to your time or whatever, or even more in the case of a Cold Stare death, probably.
Yeah. And I think this also maybe potentially comes with a little bit of experience, right? Especially for Fry and Flipheal. They are very much aware of their current abilities. They are also aware of how costly deaths are, and there's no like pride issue here. Not in order to basically do well in a qualifier, one of the first guidelines that you would like to follow is that you don't die.
Yeah. Now both of these runners are fully capable on their even on a bad day of making the top 128. So that's really the reason why for a runner of these caliber you would play a little bit more conservatively in a qualifier seed, just to make sure you don't get ruined by one bad item, one sort of skip check that kind of just destroys your average. So that's why I think you've seen, especially for Flipheal, that sort of mentality coming into this of, I don't care if I give up 5 minutes, 10 minutes across the seed. I'm going to make sure I don't, give up 20 minutes by skipping one thing.
All right. I think we also saw, from Days in chat that potion potentially not only is it good for safety. Fry here is over in the Palace of Darkness area. Gonna pay Kiki 100 more rupees, but also that potion might actually grant him some more access into the Boleg-sided pod. Yeah,
that is a very good point here. If you're coming over here, you're planning effectively to clear pod and Eastern, looking for that bow. This is probably. For Fry, it's almost definitely the most item-dense area left in the game for him to go to.
And just because we mentioned earlier that the bows are not progressive, we already see that both runners have silvers. I think early from like the well, we can't get a bow lock bow here, but there is really nothing stopping a bow from being here either in Eastern or in Pod, honestly.
Correct. We see Flip get a heart piece off of the Moldworm, that's what it's called, at the top of Tower of Hera. But he does also get that green pendant, which we will see him redeem over at Pod Eastern area sometime here soon, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I think this is maybe part of Flipheal's taking a little bit more insurance, being a bit more thorough in this case. We've seen him we've seen him finish Hera. He's gonna basically turn a green pendant as he as when he go into the Pod Eastern area, and looks like he's also gonna finish up Spike Cave here as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any major implications for us at this point for these two runners, but we did see the lamp there in the bridge chest of Palace of Darkness on Fry's side.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So that's good. That means that we do know, of course, the mountain is going to be in logic, and it is for what it's worth going to make the dark maze and other dark rooms in this case not of course in logic, but they're just a little bit nicer. You don't have to necessarily kind of like fumble your way around. Always going to be a little bit faster if you can see things. Yeah,
Flipheal unfortunately picking up his arch nemesis item, the shield, out of Spike Cave there. So we know that, barring that green pendant turn-in being something, we know that Fry didn't leave anything too major up there on the mountain outside of potentially Turtle Rock. Meanwhile, it looks like Flip is, I think, heading over to Pod as well here.
Yeah, maybe Pyramid Check alongside before
Yeah,
Pod?
maybe Pyramid Catfish before that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, of course, a pyramid, of course, is not the most convenient thing in order to get over to. But again, Flipheal he is not willing to let one location destroy his progression of the scene.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
and we see a vanilla big key there in Pod, and Days Cloud in chat pointing out that we did have two keys on the right side there that were bow locked. So the back of this dungeon is logically behind the bow. We're not going to find that back here. But we could still find, a flute, or, in Fry's eyes, the Quake could be back here. Obviously, we know it's on left side swamp, but, there's still potential value back here for him.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're right. Actually, I guess speaking of go mode potential, so I think we can definitely take stock on what we still need for the seed to completion. Certainly from Fry's side. He needs a quick medallion, which we know is in left side swamp. The one item he ended up leaving behind in Swamp Palace. We need a bow, and I think we need a flute because we know all the rest of the medallions are.
Yep, and no value there, just a blue rupee on the Sahasrara turn-in. So, Fry skipping out on Spike Cave and Tower of Hera there on his trip to the mountain. Not going to come back and bite him unless he has to make a second trip up there before left side swamp, looking for that Quake medallion.
Alright, so far though, back of Pod doesn't really seem to have much value so far.
Yeah, it hasn't been too exciting. We got two more chests that we can check here, but
yeah, looks like we've got just the big chest, and then presumably, since Fry is kind of in the area, I would also probably expect the same thing from Flipheal. Alright, we got all the items that we could out of Pod, just gonna take the mirror portal over to Eastern, and then, hope for bow inside Eastern.
Pretty much, I think that's the game plan. You're certainly hoping for some sort of progression to be in here at this point after effectively coming up empty in Pod. The lamp, they're not going to say no to a lamp, but they also... Both of these runners are fully capable with Fire Rod of completing the game without it at this point.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I think probably, in the fact that, Eastern here is seemingly it's a more and more lesser desired early dip, for most runners. The bow being here probably is like...
Did Fry just skip Cannonball Chest?
I think he actually did, because he definitely did not go there. I'm gonna assume that wasn't intentional. Maybe Fry's is also moving too fast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he... I know he hasn't been here yet, and I'm pretty sure I just saw him run straight through. So hopefully that pings alarm bells in his brain. Maybe like an item count throws him off or something. But you wonder, if kind of maybe there's just certainly these runners are under pressure, and we talk about that. And if you haven't run this game, especially for a crowd of, we've got about 300 in here right now on the Twitch channel. If you haven't had your gameplay featured on that sort of stage before, and both of these runners are certainly familiar with that pressure.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. All right. So I don't know if it was like a good or bad thing that Flipheal saltyphry ended up finding the big key as part of the map chest. We did get 2 items out of Eastern. But I think that is it for him. So hopefully in this case that one skip item location isn't going to be.
That is interesting, and I don't feel like that was an intentional skip. I feel like that was a thinking about his route potentially after Eastern Palace, or kind of just mind on maybe some of the boss fights earlier or something like that had him a little bit shaken. Yeah. I don't think that was. I think potentially he either thought that he got the 3rd item already from Cannonball Chest and just kind of mentally checked it off there, or he saw the 2nd item there from the big chest and just said, I'm going to skip I'm committing to skipping the big key chest and just moving on. Pedestal, though, is not going to be the answer for us today.
Yep, yeah, that's right. So sorry for everyone who was so hopeful. But Fry was nice enough to give us that check, and $20 is not going to be something that he is going to go for this particular seed. All right, so I was gonna say Flipheal here though, finishing up Pod. We know in this case that the bow is not here, and so he is going to mirror over to Eastern, and then we are surely going to be able to see what Fry. I do want to
comment a little bit on yeah, I do want to comment a little bit on Flip's journey through Pod here, because he did things slightly differently than Fry. We saw him do the camera unlock glitch to get past the mimics in the basement there, but he did it by using a fairy revival, which works effectively the same way as the more common potion revival. But it's always kind of neat to see that tech get used and that tech knowledge get used in these races. And then he also did the hammer yump route, having the extra small key and the big key already in hand. So that let him clear the back, I think, a little bit more efficiently than Fry did.
Oh, that's actually a good point, too. I would also just like to say, I think that was actually some pretty heads-up thinking about Flipheal, right? Because, he did find the powder, right, from the old man. He probably thought, oh, hey, I have powder. I can actually probably do this. Without necessarily, just kind of, autopiloting, right? And thinking, oh, okay, I don't have a bow, let me go, find a potion shop or something like that, and so I can, so I can do a potion camera on my own.
Well, first bit of good news in a kind of hinge point that I haven't seen before in my time commentating. Eastern Palace Cannonball Chest was not anything but a compass. So...
this is certainly, some good news so far for Fry. At least it doesn't seem like any of the stuff he's skipped so far. Just like Spike Cave, in this case Eastern Palace Cannonball Chest, doesn't really seem to have hurt him too much outside of the one earlier, which was of course Quake Medallion on left side swamp.
Right. So that being said, where the heck is our progression? We're probably looking for either a flute or a bow to open things up a little bit more for us here.
I would imagine Turtle Rock would be an option.
Yeah, I was going to say Turtle Rock's going to be the play for Flip as soon as he gets over to Ice Palace. But unfortunately, he came over to here to do Bola's Pod and Eastern first. So he's not going to be happy to see that cane in there when he gets there.
Yeah, and of course, right, and I think we mentioned this before, it's... maybe in this case, Pod Eastern is actually really dense, right? There are actually a lot of good number of checks here. The cane very well could just be sitting here. There's been more than one time where you probably had to go required, to double dip either Eastern or Pod, for a progression item before you can come back with the bow. Certainly could have been the case, and then if you can find the cane here, right, it makes Ice Palace just a whole heck of a lot faster. Of course, we know from saltyphry's side that, the cane is just sitting in Ice Palace, so no icebreaker today.
Yeah, but we're getting a couple new checks from each of these runners here. Flip's going to give us our first look at the big key chest in Eastern. Fry is our first one to make it back over to Skull Woods to get to the back here.
Drops here on Fry's side. Not only gets a fairy, also gets full magic power.
And there's the 3rd item out of Eastern, just a heart piece there in the big key chest. The downside for Fry, though, He has made.
He's holding. That
Oh
was so
boy!
close. Oh my god, Fry is like playing by the literally outline.
I have made more.
Holy cow, man!
I have made more noises watching Fry's stream tonight than I have in quite a while. He does have a very nice moth fight there. Takes him down, and knowing that Pedestal is dead, can just save and quit out of there, getting the second item out of Skull Woods. But
Yeah.
one thing I was going to say before that was that Fry has, we talked about the thoroughness versus skips and everything like that. Fry has left himself several bad locations at this point, and we know one of those bad locations for him has more fun with
the Quake medallion.
Yeah, unfortunately, we know one of those is a very required item for him. So.
Yeah, and just in this case, to clarify some of our reactions here, when we were watching Fry drop into Mothula, so because this is based on the Japanese 1.0 ROM, the falling animation actually is just animation. It actually still assumes that you are still on the same layer. So in this case, when the wall master comes down and tries to grab you, even if you're in the falling animation, it is still assumes that you're on the floor. So, due to some pretty close timing, Fry actually could have basically gotten grabbed. And
I would guess he was probably about 5 to 10 frames there from getting grabbed. Yeah.
Anyway, that's right. Flip reminding us that unfortunately he was actually not successful earlier trying to get Dark Cross in the dark. Yeah, so this is actually going to be pretty nice, routing for him. Good for him also to remember that he had basically this kind of like one loose threat that he had to take care of.
Right. So yeah, he's going to give us our first look up at Catfish here. Hopefully he'll get over to Ice Palace here soon. Fry, meanwhile, going to be kind of cleaning up what he left behind on the mountain here, which is Tower of Hera here and Spike Cave. Not going to get much from either of those, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, and I guess for what it's worth, Fry was pretty aggressive in skipping some of these, longer checks, but yeah, at least, most of these is kind of bundled together, right? So, certainly, again, left side swamp is not, with one item left is not going to be very appealing, but, from Fry's perspective, right, it is certainly very reasonable to come back here, because he's got the green pendant from Hera, he's got one item left from Hera, and then he also has Spike Cave alongside. Right.
Of course, the downside is that you just went over to Pod Eastern, so, following that green pendant can suck away a little bit more time, but we'll see what he chooses to do with that. Whether he puts that off until he has the bow, or if he, chooses to go over there a little bit earlier. Anyway, I think this is new information for us from the Catfish.
Yeah, significantly nicer to come over here with boots.
Definitely. Just $20 there, though. And it looks like Flip is going to turn right around, take the Whirlpool here into Ice Palace. So that'll get him, I think, on track in terms of getting up to Turtle Rock, which it just certainly feels like the next place that we're going to be going. Chat's kind of identifying the places that we have left or that we haven't seen from either of these two runners. And yeah, I think it is. I can't think of anything else other than Turtle Rock and then Magic Bat and the item on Landmo in Desert.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and of course, certainly, Turtle Rock being, the most item-dense location. Certainly it would be, ideal in this case if we can save Turtle Rock, as our last dungeon, just because we can save ourselves one mountain trip. But probably at this point, it might be actually worth the time to go up. Yeah, and I will also like to point out, the fact that we are, we have a very late flute on our hands, actually does require a little bit more, thinking and creativity from, our runners, basically to minimize the amount of time for overworld travel, right? Actually, Flipheal actually just kind of demonstrated this, right? He's like, well, I still need to go into Ice Palace at some point, right? But, I have the mirror, and if I routed Catfish alongside, I can literally just take that portal.
And then he used that with the pyramid check to also get in that Dark Cross that he had abandoned earlier. So using that routing knowledge to kind of clean up some of the loose checks and everything. We're going to see Magic Bat here for the first time on Fry's side. So let's see what the Bat has for us today.
Yep, so this, of course, when we initially got them, you know, from Fry and Flipheal side, it was on the old man. It was in the dark, so at that point it was out of logic, but of course, after seeing the lamp in pod, it is 100% game. And just another heart piece for us today.
So yeah, that continues to point us back towards that Turtle Rock being kind of the next point in the seed. And, you know, one good thing here for Fry is that he is, you know, if the rest of the seed, if Flute and Bow are both gated behind Turtle Rock, which is certainly looking likely here, unless something's on Landmo or something, you know, there's only so much of the seed he can check looking for that Quake. He's not going to get sucked into, like, you know, full clearing a Misery Mire that other people are go-moding, or, you know, and he's already done the pod Eastern dip.
All right, yeah, looks like though. Where is?
But he also has the North Dark World.
Yeah,
Dark World.
that's right.
Dark World.
Like, where's Fred? North Dark Death World. Yes,
It's
it's
only
valid location.
it's only a Dork World when I'm there.
No, of course not. I did forget. Yeah, so it looks like the Fry, probably he wants to try and clean up as much as the non-mountain stuff that he, you know, is reasonably willing to invest time for. So checking out Bumper Ledge, making sure that it's nothing to do with the Cape, do the River Village, presumably also going to head over to Catfish as well.
Yep. And so Flipheal looks like he's going to route in Ice Tea first here, and then make his way over, probably take the bomb jump over to the Freezor room and get that cane and big chest checked there. But that'll probably point him straight up to TR after this, I would imagine.
Yeah. He's gonna be, you know, I mean, he at this point is just looking for progression, right? So he needs a bow, he needs the cane of Samaria, he needs a flute. Any amount of, you know, any more of those, right? I think will give him some direction. But I guess the fact that the bow here isn't going to actually unlock anything else. I guess I'm not sure if the helmet still has an item, but like having in this case the cane or the flute is going to certainly just point him to somewhere.
Right. I think that Helma still has an item based on of what we saw in the back there, but I could be wrong. Maybe our tracker happens to know. But yeah, Flip gets his cane there. And Fry is going to come up here and get his heart piece off of the catfish and really start to kind of... He's definitely going to be sweating at this point.
Yeah. I mean, so like, he doesn't really have anything left up. Like, he can't get into Turtle Rock, right? Because he doesn't have the Quick Medallion, so maybe he has to be eventually forced back into Swamp. Yeah,
I think at some point his options are going to come down to Swamp and Landmo, and probably doing Swamp on the way to Landmo, but we'll see what he actually ends up doing here.
Yeah, this actually looks like the fact that he has his hammer out is going to go into this portal. It probably indicates that he is going to, in this case, as you just mentioned, to clear out Swamp, well, do left side, and into Desert. I'm sure this sounds really great as he's like running through this, right? He's like, okay, I have to do all of left side Swamp for one item, and then I have to go kill Landmos if it doesn't have anything.
Yeah. Flip having a slightly nicer cold stare fight there takes it down. He's going to get his third crystal rather of the seed, and we'll see if he chooses to just save and quit straight to the mountain here. I don't think there's anything else left in the Lake Hylia area for him to do, so we'll see what direction he goes.
Yeah, so Aspra in this case makes his way over left side Swamp, and you know, unfortunately, coming back, I mean, especially in this case, I'm sure Fry is probably not feeling super great, or at least like the best, but and it's going to be actually a good amount of kind of like time commitment, right? Not only for his left side Swamp, it's going to be a little bit longer, but also Fry had to go through like the portal again, right? Some of these things are definitely not trivial in terms of time commitment.
Yeah, and this is never a fun check to do a second time. There's our blue boomerang that we left behind in the big chest. I did forget that we had not gone back or did not get that when with the big key in the back there when Flip was in there. But no bailout there for Fry in terms of coming back in for the second trip. And now we will head into Turtle Rock on Flip's side.
Yeah, surely this has to be either bow or flute, right? At this point.
At least one, if not both.
Oh
I
yeah,
would
that's
expect
true.
to
Yeah,
be,
we can certainly find both of them here in Turtle Rock. That is 100% true.
Yeah, we've got 5 items to get. We've got an additional 6th item from Mimic Cave to get on the way. We've got, this is a red crystal, so that unlocks 2 more checks after we complete this. It certainly feels, one way or another, we're going to be finding some progression directly behind or in Turtle Rock.
All right, nothing so far, but we do have the big key potentially. So, well, I guess we're probably not going to do any shenanigans in terms of like skipping any chests here, especially on Flipheal's side. We have seen him literally get everything in the area, so certainly do not imagine him skipping any chests or trying to. No,
we're opening lava chest, we're opening big chest, unless we find both bow and flute somehow before them, which I don't think is even possible.
Nice. Alright, Fry coming in here. At least he has a hook shot, so he is going to come up to his quick medallion momentarily. He knows that this has to be something at this point. We are going up the mountain for Fry.
Yep, and probably not a happy Fry at this moment, but he is gonna get back on track with the seed a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, he has made some, some really great decisions. He has actually been playing also pretty well. Cutting a few moments kind of close, right? Blind, some maybe almost getting grabbed, Mothula cold stare, but he has definitely survived very well. Just happens to be in this case one of the locations that he ended up going over the first time. Just had something pretty important.
And for all we've been kind of saying with him leaving that item there on left side swamp, he is not far behind Flipheal in the seed. He's about half a Turtle Rock behind at this point, where Flip was, but has, kind of cleaned up a lot of those checks and stuff that Flipheal did the first time.
Yeah,
it's just that even with the 10 to 15 minute boots advantage, and even with the advantage of getting into Ice Palace and getting that cane a little bit earlier, he is still routed reasonably efficiently, and leaving behind the one item that he did, slowed him down, I think, but I don't think it has ruined his race as much as could have felt like it could have been at the time.
Yeah, I mean, right, and all the stuff that Fry has basically done, right? I think it also just shows a testament to his execution and his routing decisions and his efficiency, right?
Right. So we're going to see Mimic Cave and then the big chest here from Flipheal.
Yeah, and of course at this point, I think some viewers also kind of noted that there was a green 20 earlier, as part of, I guess, hard mode in this case. We do have 4 swords in the pool, but we're only going to be capped at Tempered Sword. Certainly no issues whatsoever for these runners. But in this case, we're not going to have a super easy, awesome time again, and just just a relatively straightforward time.
Yeah. It's still, tempered in silvers.
Oh yeah. This is actually probably, especially for Fry and Flipheal, this is more than comfortable.
Certainly a bit even comfier than last year's tournament. So no complaints
that's actually
there.
True. That is actually a very good point. Last year's main tournament, for those of you who were able to catch it, it was actually just hard the entire way, and there were no silvers in the pool. So I got to see a lot of tempered fights, or Master Sword for that matter, and silverless.
I think I saw 17,000 spins on Gannon from that tournament.
Give or take, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have exact confirmation on this, but I assume certainly that Fry and Flipheal both participated last year, so I'm sure they are very, very well averse to fight again.
So I can promise you that Fry did, because he was in my group for that one, and I'm.
Actually, I don't know if he saw that, very minor. I don't know if this is considered actually faster on Flipheal's side. So he hooked to the pot, and then hit the switch underneath, and then he immediately placed a cane of Samaria blocks. I assume
I have seen him do that before, and I don't know. It maybe frames faster, honestly, because you still have to wait for the extra poof from the new block that you're placing. I don't know how much time that actually saves, but it's fun to give yourself some, put yourself back in control at least while you're riding the platform around. And we still have not found either of those items, the bow or the flute here, through the end of Laser Bridge.
Wow. All right. So I'm gonna have to assume that there is an item on Trinex because I'm not really sure where else we're going after this. I guess Landmo.
Yeah, this would be. I mean,
actually,
Pyramid
yeah.
Fairy is a good point too. That, as chat points out, would be kind of the next thing to go. But yeah, then after that, you've got Landmo, and for Flip, he's got like that Swamp Big Chest still lurking. Maybe a couple of other small checks, little one-offs, but yeah. Could be interesting. Backdoor Strat's getting a little bit away from Flip here. He does have a blue potion in pocket, though, so he can be a little bit more aggressive here with the magic.
Yeah, looks like though he unfortunately will, or fortunately, he is going to have to use it because unfortunately didn't quite get all the hits necessarily to land on the ice head.
Yeah, but he makes it to phase 2. A little bit of ice on the floor, but I don't think that'll mess him up too bad.
Yeah, I mean at this point, you can sacrifice probably a handful of seconds. Just don't die.
Yep, and no issues there. Gets the double spin and the slash to take him down, and there is our flute. So we're going to see him activate that, see him head over to the Misery Mire area after this, and see if we can find a bow somewhere along the way.
Yeah, that would be great. Finally, some direction, for the seed, and we only, had to basically get all the way to Trinex in this case. So Pyramid Fairy probably most likely is going to be, tabled for the time being. Flipheal is probably just going to go activate his flute immediately, go over to the Mire area, and then check out what's there. So I guess, okay, so Will, in this case, like you're looking for the bow, right? You've got, in this case of Mire area, you've got Mire Shed and you've got Checkerboard. Like, do you just go into Mire immediately looking for the bow? Or do you actually still do some of these like side checks?
I would do Mire Shed first at the very least, because the value of go moding Mire is somewhat significant depending on the key layout. So I want to get those 2 quick checks done. I probably don't do Checkerboard, and my personal reason for that would just be to make sure that I have Spooky available to me, which I think you lose on that extra mirror there. So for me, that would be my routing would be check Mire Shed, and then go on into Mire and start looking for it there. Okay,
yeah. Yeah, and I guess, and specifically, I think, especially with Mire, as you just said, right, the key layout, especially if you get an early big key, it's obviously you can just go, right? And it might actually depend on the key layout for, I guess, like how much of a risk you're willing to, I guess, like to take, right? Because if the big key is late, right, it probably doesn't end up mattering, whether or not you do Mire Shed first or not, because you're still gonna have to go through, right, the rest of the dungeon in order to get the big key. But especially if it's gonna be an early big key, you really, then you kind of have to ask yourself, right? Do I try and figure out? Oh no, Fry! Oh no!
I don't think we have a fairy. We do have another fairy.
Oh my gosh! When did he catch this fairy? Oh my gosh, dude! Fry has like every contingency plan. All right,
I did not realize he refilled that bottle after the pod dip. Yeah, no, I missed that. Okay,
he
well,
may not have realized, and he forgot the Eastern Palace cannonball chest, but he knows how to not die.
There have been lots of good clinch moments tonight, but he's still got a 0 in the deaths counter, at least for unintentional deaths, and that's important.
Yes. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Flipheal here in the Mire area. He looks like he is checking out Mire Shed first. Let's see if he decides to, I guess, see or search for the big key.
So he is at least going to check out Checkerboard here.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Fry though taking on Trinex. Looks like a pretty clean fight so far.
And
yeah.
Just like some local idiot said on commentary, definitely skip Checkerboard Cave. Don't get go mode before you go into Mire.
I'm pretty sure nobody said skip anything. It just might have been a delayed check in this case, right?
Yeah. So Flip's gonna flute back over here. He's gonna knock out Pod and Eastern real quick. Come back for Misery Mire with a full health and a full magic bar, and then head on up to head on up to Ganon's tower because he is in go mode now.
Yeah, that's right. Flipheal has found his go mode in Checkerboard Cave, which is the bow, the one and only bow. But of course, we did find silvers early on, so Armos, Helma. If we have to fight Ice Armos later, Ganon, and actually, especially those silver arrows. I know a lot of people are very comfortable with Temper Sword, especially if you're pretty well practiced in NMG. But silver arrows also take down Vitreous pretty nicely.
That is true. Yeah, so Fry's going to go over and activate his flute. He had a nice, I think nice for him. This is a compliment in this run for him. A nice boring Trinex fight.
That's right. No fireworks, no drama, no going. Wondering if we have to do anything by the seat of our outline.
no one heart kills or anything there. Just a good old fashioned Trinex death. But he's getting his flute activated. He's already done the Kakariko area checks that Flipheal has, so I expect to see him just head on right on down to the Mire area at this point.
Yeah, and I guess we're actually going to still be able to see whether or not Fry is kind of following in Flipheal's routing decisions, right? We saw Flipheal do Mire Shed and Checkerboard Cave, before going into Mire. Certainly in this case, because we saw the bow is in Checkerboard Cave for go mode, it's going to save Fry potentially some amount of time here.
Right. So gets the very important medallion check with the 3 medallions in hand.
So I was actually thinking about this, and maybe this is going to be some quick swap efficiency, right? So when he eventually lands back, he knows which medallion.
That is a good point. That is a fair reason. It's not like I'm teasing on that one because I do it as well.
For sure. No, I mean these runners are so good. I mean we certainly have seen just actually what everything is. Especially Fry, how good he is at surviving in his execution. Yeah.
And he's going to get his go mode here maybe about 2 minutes after Flipheal discovering the bow. So yeah, certainly not far behind. And I think a lot of that is, like you said, just very much thanks to his clean execution throughout this. It was a little hairy at moments, but at the end of the day, didn't have any time losses to deaths, didn't have any major routing disasters or anything like that. Left side swamp was a decision that bit him, but at the end of the day, both runners ended up having to check a lot of stuff to get into go mode.
Yeah, and for I think like some of these items that could have been left in left side swamp or happened to be there. Actually, Quake was actually probably on the better end of the spectrum, just because it did lock out Turtle Rock. Right? I mean, like if Kane were there, for example, right?
Yeah.
And Quake were somewhere else, like Fry could have been gone all the way through Turtle Rock looking for something, right?
Right, exactly. And, he very well could be, he's going to get to go mode Mire. We'll see if that actually is, a time save here if we get Big Key from one of the first 2 chests.
Yeah,
that's a potential time sink that he's avoided. He never had to go back to Pendant Desert or anything like that.
That's true. Yeah, and the fact that right, and so I'm not looking at like the seed kind of like what some of the differences might be, right? So in this case, of course, comparing Fry to Flipheal, the quick medallion certainly was a pretty significant factor. Given that this race is 120 entrants, you're certainly going to see quite a bit of divergence. Certainly would not be surprised if other people skipped out of left side swamp when they were first there. Another one is how early probably did you end up choosing to go into swamp versus not, because we did know that boots were pretty early if you dipped swamp pallets and found them in compass chests. So,
and I think like you said, I think the key decision here is going to be when did you get up to the mountain, get that fire rod, and then get back to Ice Palace. I think that's going to be kind of a play as well, because the logical path was dip Palace of Darkness for the lamp, go up to the mountain, get the get the fire rod, come back and do Ice Palace, then get the cane, then come back up the mountain again and do Turtle Rock. But you can shortcut a lot of that if you are, comfortable with dark rooms and just, make your sequence break at the right time, I think, in the seed to avoid ever dipping into Eastern and Pod.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point as well, is that in this case, if you, made the right decisions, we did see that in this case, Pod and Eastern really didn't have much value for us other than the crystals themselves, right?
Right.
And certainly we got a very lucrative and item-dense location, especially when you have the mirror. But again, that's not where in this case the progressions were. In this case.
Yeah, and I think if you make that kind of I think Flip's probably going to kick himself a little bit at the end of this for thinking, why didn't I just go Ice Palace when I had it clearable? Why did I, insist on waiting for Kane versus going and doing Bolas Pod
That
Meester?
is true. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Today it did not for him, especially with the Kane being there in Ice Palace, and then the rest of the seed being a pretty, paint by numbers sort of thing, where you follow the Cane and you go to Turtle Rock and you get the flute, and then you follow the flute and you go and you get your bow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, really that was, that decision to delay Ice Palace, I think is going to be the one thing that he looks back on in his routing here and just kind of says, man, I wish I had just...
But for what it's worth, I'm not sure if I have heard a runner that hasn't kicked themselves, after a race and be like, I really wish I'd done that earlier.
Right.
So let's just add it to the pile.
Yeah.
I mean, and routing decisions, especially, in this particular seat early on, think about when we ended up getting all of our Dark World access, right? We had Mitts, we had Hammer, we had Mirror, so much was open to us, right? We can literally do anything, in Dark World that we want right?
Yeah. We had flute and glove, or not flute, but a hammer and gloves, and we found the Moon Pearl on Zora there probably about 15 minutes in, right? Mm-hmm. You had to see the Mitts on your way to get that Moon Pearl. So every runner in this race, I would imagine, had knowledge of those Mitts by the time they got Dark World access.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone's going to go to Hype Cave, get your hook shot, get your Master Sword. A lot of people are probably going to clear Swamp there, and then you get your Mitts. And, then it's a matter of just, kind of staying on track with the seed where it wanted you to go.
Yeah, right, and we did, and we actually saw just so much divergence, even with Fry and Flipheal, right? Fry decided in this case take the route that you just described, basically get the Mitts, go to Swamp Palace, and then kind of go from there. Versus Flipheal decided to go for the Mitts early and explore the Village of Outcasts, basically take the north to south route, right? But there was just so many options that you have. Certainly, in a race as big as this size, especially, I would certainly expect some pretty high variance between within the finish times.
Yeah, I think this seed more so than some of the other seeds that were either, very, very, a single jet route through the seed or very, very full clear seeds. I think this one's going to have some variance in the results that we see. I think we're going to see, a few runners that put up some really fast times on this one. But then there's going to be kind of a peloton of, really solid runners who maybe just made one mistake or, one decision that didn't work out for them. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to see kind of, I think a little bit more spread in the scores on this one compared to some of the other qualifiers we've had.
Mm-hmm. And at least this one you had boots. Depending on course when you visit a Swamp Palace, this was certainly a refreshing seed to maybe even potentially have a little bit of fun in, because you can dash around a bit, unlike I would say probably the last couple qualifier seeds that we had. Yeah,
we still put the boots behind the flippers, the mirror, the gloves, and the hammer, but. At the end of the day,
early, right?
At the end of the day, all of those were pretty much sphere 1 or 2. So, you can't complain too much about that location.
All right, looks like though Flipheal may not have either I'm not sure, lost Spooky at some point, or maybe he didn't quite get it set up. It looks like the switch hit didn't quite register, so he's gonna have to do this the original pre-Spooky days. Imagine doing things like the originally intended way. Yeah.
Right. Imagine bombing open the wall there.
Oh yeah, jeez. It's almost as if we were given these resources for a reason.
I know. And Fry, of course, is making his way down to the Turtles room of Pod here. He's still got to clear Eastern Palace as well, so he will be up into getting his 7th crystal and heading up to GT here shortly behind Flip, assuming all goes well with this Vitreous fight with Silver Arrows. And 9 quick Silvers take down the Small Eyes, and 2 more take down the Big Eye. So a nice easy fight for Flipheal there with the Silvers.
Yeah, of course. I didn't even realize this. I think on Fry's side earlier, when he take down Vitreous, also gets a really nice arrow refill. So I think we also did mention potentially, being somewhat more resource cognizant. Just because we do have Silvers, you want to use them for everything. It's you really want to make sure that you have enough going in, up to GT, so you don't have to just hunt for them.
Right. So yeah, that is the 7th crystal for Flipheal. He is going to be heading back up the mountain here and heading into Ganon's tower. And I see some of our more devoted viewers here putting some numbers into chat. Those are our presumably guesses of where they think that we are going to find that GT big key that we need to climb up to the top of the tower and take down Ganon.
Yeah, so yeah, certainly feel free to guess where you think the GT big key is. And in this case, we are in the truest sense of go mode. We've got tempered, we've got silvers, we've got boots, so the torch doesn't even matter to us. Like, I'm not even sure if Flipheal is looking for. I'm not even sure if there's anything else that can really even help him at this point.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect any extra checks. Once he's got a small key in hand and the big key, I think he's going to be climbing. So.
Yeah. So I guess, are you hoping for an early big key, late big key? Do we want to see Ice Armos today for more content?
You know, I think these runners have given us a fair amount of content at this point. I think they have done their job. So I'm personally, I'm rooting for them to have a nice, quick GT experience here.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, especially, if they played some of the other previous qualifiers. This one seems to be certainly a bit more refreshing. Yeah, so let's hope in this case for it's going to be an early big key. Of course, GT routing also can play, a little bit of variance. Lots of people like to go left first to Stalfos room when you get at least one small key, so you can guaranteed access into compass chests. Some people just like to check hope room first. Right, and then if you have a small key, you can keep going to compass. Looks like Flipheal is like making the left side play. I've also seen people just rush rando room. I mean, that is these are definitely going to be strategies which, depending on where that big key is, can certainly cause a little bit more divergence.
I'm just gonna say it though. If you're one of those people that likes to rush rando room, more power to you. I love the strat, but make sure you check your keys before you check your small keys before you climb. Because
yeah, that is also a very good point. Sometimes based on the routes, once we find the big key, it is like an instant mirror, right? Basically to get up, but it is extremely important that you do have at least one small key going up, because you do not want to be right before Moldern 2 and realize that you don't have a key to go through the door.
Just a couple of small keys there in the Stalfos room, one more here in Hope room for Flip. So first 7 checks of the basement of Ganon's tower here coming up empty in terms of finding that big key. Fry, completing his 7th crystal there, taking on the Armos Knights, is going to be on his way up here at the moment as well, as we see Flip heading through right side here on his way to the compass room.
Yeah, and the fact that there is a small key here in Hope Room means that the different GT routes are probably not going to cause as much variance, right? The most difference is going to be when there is no small key in Hope Room, and the big key is here in Compass Room.
Right.
So let's see in this case where that big key is. It is not here in Compass Room. All right, so presumably Flip's gonna pick up this small key here and then clear on over to the left side.
Yep, and if you guessed a number that was 11 or smaller, now's the time to predict or to backtrack and pretend that you were guessing where the shuffle was or something.
I would also like to point out, by the way, that I did actually, in this case, catch Fry catching his fairy right before he enters the Dark World. Okay, so in this case, if he has any more, close calls, we know that he is at least safe temporarily.
Thank you for pointing that out. That is good for us to know.
It seems pretty important for this scene. Flipheal, seems to be just like, just chugging along. No worries whatsoever.
Yeah, we haven't had too many near-death experiences on the right side of the screen, but Fry has kept us definitely entertained tonight. We were talking about providing content for us.
Yes, thank you for your service, sir.
Indeed. So we see GT opening up for him as Flip makes his way over here to the Fire Snake chest. This will be number 12 or number 13 for him after doing the map chest.
Yeah, all right, so it looks like Fry, again, is going to give us a little bit of divergence. Of course, we already saw this, some of the stuff on Flipheal's side, but looks like he is actually going to go right side first to Hope Room with this small key. Looks like he's going, and it looks like just because the GT big key was not kind of like earlier in GT, assuming Fry goes to the right side, it's actually going to be a little bit faster route. Of course, unless it's in Tile Room, in which case it doesn't really matter what route you take. You're just going to do Tile Room last.
Flip gets getting 3 heart pieces in a heart container there at a rando room, you know.
All right. Okay. So safety room here in GT. You know, just more preparations to help with the climb.
Right.
But we're getting kind of close to that tile room though on Flipheal side. So we've got the chest right above Ice Armos. We've got the 3 behind Ice Armos, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah. So we're gonna be what is this? 17, 18, 19, 20, 18 for Flip coming up here. After he gets chased off by the mini Helmasaur there. That guy, we have a long history against each other in this game.
Hopefully, you know, it'll be a little bit shorter. You can just knock him off next time.
He has seen plenty of my hook shot before. I will say that. Bob's chest not having it either, so we are going to see an Ice Armos fight here on Flipheal's side.
Yeah, meanwhile though, Fry has made his way through Compass Chest, or Compass Room. He's gonna check out Stalthos Room and then head on south.
Yep, so no big differences here in the kind of left first versus right first route. There it is in chest number 21.
21, all right. For those, yes, that was quite the close call. Don't have to sit through another tile room in this case. So Flipheal, armed with the big key and multitude of small keys, is ready to make the climb.
Yep. Unfortunately, Mimic's getting a little bit away from him.
These Mimics are definitely not letting Flipheal kind of continue on his path, and the spikes are definitely helping them out too, taking a couple silver arrows for them.
Yeah, a little bit cleaner there in Mimics too, and he's gonna get up here and get to see the strat that I've only.
Dude,
no!
Was so close, man. Oh, dude,
I've only recently seen that strat from a few NMG runners I do, and I know Flipheal is a pretty accomplished NMG runner as well. But that time the spike just jumping in there to ruin it a little bit.
Yeah, I think for what it's worth, it actually does save sometimes. I want to say like a handful of frames, maybe like 10 or 20, something like that. But certainly it does look really cool if you can land the arrow to hit the switch and then basically immediately dash up.
Yeah, there's so many like. If you haven't watched any of the really like top level NMG runners, for anyone in chat who's watching, I highly recommend it. The amount of precision that they have in like doing some of their strats is incredible, and yeah, definitely worth checking out for sure. The things that they do to save 10-20 frames in every room of the game makes it just an amazing run to watch especially if you're familiar with running this game from the randomizer as well.
Yeah, of course. Not only of course are NMG runners awesome. Fry and Flipheal posted their Twitch channels in chat. Certainly give them a peek if you're interested, because they certainly have been doing a very nice job for us today.
Indeed, yeah, both very very talented runners. I know Flipheal does quite a fair bit of NMG himself. I don't know about Fry as much, but yeah, definitely check out both of those runners. They're going to be obviously streaming more races, and assuming qualifications go smoothly for them, showing a lot more once we get into the group stages and the brackets of this tournament as well.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, and keep in mind in general that this is also Qualifier 6 out of 18. There are plenty of rando to be had, both in, of course, the upcoming weeks and months.
Yep, and Fry now has his GT big key in hand and starting his climb. Flipheal is making it up to Torches 2 here, and just saving a little magic using that lamp here.
Yeah, so of course we're gonna get a big magic refill right before Moldorm 2, so he just wants to make sure he has enough shots.
Yep.
Alright, putting that powder to good use, has a full health going into Moldorm 2, Aghanim 2, and presumably Ganon at this point.
Yep, yeah, no, shouldn't be any real worries here at the end of the seed for either runner. You're going to get that full magic refill. Both runners have powder to, heal up there. Obviously, as we have made certainly a note of, Fry has a fairy in hand.
Yes.
So.
Yes, hopefully in this case, armed with also powder as well, Fry also will be, a bit safer finishing up the race here.
Flip got the really rude hit there for the mini Helmasaur. Like, he dashed through it and still got hit by it. I'm not sure if I've actually seen that before in that room, because I usually do that same strat. So, just thought that was fascinating.
right, on to Agnum 2. Flipheal is anxiously trying to finish out this fight. Okay, yeah, nice deflector of the blue ball. Managed to land both energy shots. I think
And
that was
unfortunately, yeah, I think he got doubles on the first two, and then I think he double hit the last shot there.
Yeah, man, that is really unfortunate.
On phase 3, yeah. So unfortunately, it counted as one hit, even though two of the balls looked like they did connect. There's a kind of certain glitch, or maybe intended glitch, with the timing there to have a just a small amount of overlap there between shots. So
Yeah,
takes it down in 4 cycles, still not bad.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
he's going to drop into his Ganon fight.
Yeah, given what he had, that was certainly well done. But yeah, this is one final fight between Flipheal and Victory for completion of the seed. And I think we have noted before, Tempered Sword and Silvers for phase 4 are, it looks like, setting up very well for the 1-1, getting a lot of good spins in.
Yep, man, looks like he is, and got a good RNG position there. This is a nice, easy one to deal with as well. And one other thing we have to look forward to here, Clear Mouse. We saw a link earlier in the chat from the bot. The submissions for the post race text that appears on the Triforce.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for the reminder, dude. I totally forgot. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get to see that here once these two runners finish up. So hope we get something fun there. And if you haven't already, hopefully someone can real quick bring that link back up and post it in the chat for people to kind of add their own messages to the pool here for these qualifiers. It's a really neat thing that the tourney admins and the developers have worked together on this year.
All right, happy to found it. Yeah, and in this case, right. I think as part of this tournament starting, you can actually submit your own Triforce sites that actually can appear here in some of the Restream qualifier races.
Yeah, Flip with a very nice triple there at the end. That's going to be GG's for him once he crosses the bridge.
Was a really nice Ganon for
and Fry takes one fall to Moldorm here, and now takes him down there on the second try. So he'll be across here in just a second.
Yeah, get your GG's out in chat here for Flipheal finishing first in our restream with presumably an hour 43 and 20 something. Let's even get official time. Hang on.
Yeah, the race time GG chat says an hour 43:37 for him. I don't know if maybe something came up there at the very end there with him trying to get a dot done in the chat or something like that. Meanwhile, we'll see Fry take down Aga 2 here. Gets two shots in on the first cycle as well. And
Believe in pod. Well, this particular seed, maybe not as much, but I'm sure that could be applicable to those other seeds.
Yeah, maybe we should believe in pod for the next qualifier is what that is telling us.
Alright, Fry here, finishing up his Agnum fight, and of course, Agnum and Ganon in this case are going to be the same for not only, of course, Fry and Flipheal, but for all of the 120 contestants, or runners in this case. Fry is more than eager in this case to try and finish up the seed. So hopefully, we see Flip do a really nice job on Ganon, including landing the triple. In Ganon phase 4, hopefully Fry will have just as a nice time.
Yep. Flip continuing to believe in pod over there on the right side. It's just making me laugh a little bit.
Get rid of that for a while.
Oh, hey, Flip.
Oh, hey, Flipheal. How's it going? GG's.
GG's.
Yep, we are watching Fry finish up his Ganon fight here as well. GG's on your race.
Yeah, I love anti-routing the seed. That was fun.
I was actually going to ask you, once you found, let's say, like the flippers in Swamp, did you have any other thoughts, I guess, about your initial decision to go north?
Wait, say that again?
I guess, yeah, right. So when you first went to Dark World, right? Yeah, you got your mitts, and then you would basically, to like North Dark World, right? Village of Outcasts, as opposed to you had potentially the option of going to Swamp. So when you did eventually make your way into Swamp and you found the boost, did you have any thoughts about your routing decisions at that point?
I mean, yeah, I was very sad. I mean, I don't really like to skip much in a qualifier, so I figured I was gonna do all of Village anyway. I was hoping for boots, and yeah, boots were in swamp. It's great.
I will say that, yeah, you mentioned that you don't like to skip things. I think that was actually very evident here in the way that you played the scene. I don't think that there was anything you left behind once you visited the area.
Yeah, what really hurt me too is like I know the mountain was full clearable, but I really don't like sequence breaking it. Maybe
I'm going to jump in real quick here. Get your GGs in chat for saltyphry wrapping up his Ganon fight as well. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, go ahead. You were talking about, when you like to head up to the mountain. Yeah.
And then I got the fire rod, and then it looks like I just didn't want to like break logic, and then just for a lamp, it just felt really bad, and then C just lined up right after I did everything wrong.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of saying, earlier in the restream, that if there was one decision you're kicking yourself for, it's that, putting off that ice palace, even though it wasn't in logic yet, putting that off, I think, really led to you going over there doing the double dip on Pod and Eastern. And so, yeah, that was probably an unfortunate thing for you for sure.
Yeah, and then went into useless desert. GG Salty.
Yeah, and we are joined in the chat here as well by saltyphry. GG's.
Yo, GG's, Fry.
Thanks, GG.
So, Fry, you had a bit of an adventure there finding that Quake medallion, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, we noticed, a lot of people talk about the mindset and the philosophy that goes into, how you play a qualifier versus how you play, maybe in a 1v1 race or something like that. Was that kind of something that, where you maybe like have a little bit less difference in that philosophy for you? Because we noticed it just seemed like it was maybe, a little bit less thorough in terms of, skipping some of the slower checks. So things like left side swamp and some other things. And, I was just kind of curious about your philosophy on that.
Yeah, I generally just kind of roll with it. Like, I'm not really too worried. Like, usually I'm pretty confident I'm just going to qualify regardless of how I do. Although my finishes haven't exactly been great in these. I've had several kind of similar to this so far, so I might have to rethink that strategy going forward. But yeah, I usually just kind of roll with it, and that's kind of my approach to open mode races usually. Like, it's interesting. I literally just finished the All Dungeons Keys tournament yesterday, which I take a very, very different approach to. Obviously, it's a much more thorough approach when you're doing it. In the open mode races, I tend to kind of just roll with it. And since I was in swamp so early, I was about to get the mitts right afterwards. I just kind of like, all right, we'll just kind of skip this for now. Hope it's nothing. And well, that didn't play out too well. And in fact, it played out about as horribly as it could have in the end.
Yeah. Go ahead, Claire Mouse.
Oh no, I was actually gonna say, well, I was actually, pretty glad because I think the timing worked out, at least on the restream, that Flipheal basically just picked up the Quick Medallion right when you found out what the entry was for Turtle Rock. So we knew immediately at that point that it was potentially gonna be a bottleneck for you.
I think the seed did you at least a small favor in that it had everything kind of pinned behind that Turtle Rock in terms of the bow and the flute. Obviously, the downside of that was that, you ended up doing the bowless Pod and Eastern dip as well for a lamp and not much else. But at the same time, you didn't end up having to, you were able to go mode Mire and, didn't have to dig around too much to get back there. At least it wasn't the worst case scenario in terms of, where, the things that you had kind of orphaned a little bit later on.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff that could have been worse, but still definitely didn't feel good having to go back for all that in the end. Right?
Sure.
It is what it is. Like, that happens in these. I've accepted that. When you make those kind of plays, you kind of just got to accept that those kind of things will happen. I'm pretty stoic when it comes to it all. I used to play poker a bit, and I kind of take the same attitude with that I took with that, where sometimes you'll do the right thing and it just doesn't work out for you. Like, whether or not this was the right thing or not, I'll just kind of keep going with my theory that it probably is for now until it happens over and over and over again, until I really maybe have to rethink it. But I don't know. It is what it is.
No, I totally understand that, and that's one of the things that I kind of like about this community is that there's not one single meta or anything like that everyone kind of abides by. There's a lot of different schools of thought when it comes to even for these qualifier races, much less when you get into 1v1 and metagaming versus specific opponent. There's a lot of kind of variability in what you can do in this game in terms of your routing decisions.
I also like the possibility of winning one of these big races. I sometimes find the chance to in some of these qualifiers. I would usually got to take kind of a big chance to do that, or you got to skip a few things. So if you're looking to do that, sometimes you got to take those types of chances and just kind of rely that even if you do screw up, that it's not going to cost you qualifying in the end. Because I wouldn't more so this year than other years. I do kind of like the fact that we're expanding the different modes for the actual tournament when that comes around. So
I will say that as a runner from last year's tournament, I am very much in favor of the variability as well.
That's just a general thing about it. Like I've been playing this for so long now. Open modes, that was what I started on, so that's what I was playing for the first couple of years I did this. So now I very much prefer a variety of different things. So yeah, and just open mode is a little blah in my mind. I'll still play it, but yeah, I prefer a little variety myself personally.
I mean, speaking of variety, I did notice that both of you had, the mirror early, and potentially, if you end up getting, let's say, inverted in groups or brackets, maybe might be worth noting where you can say some mirror from the light world in order to, get to the dark world.
Oh, I love some inverted.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of inverted myself. Inverted's actually kind of what carried, since we had the option of inverted in the All Adventure Keys tournament. That's kind of what carried me as far as I went. I went 6-2 in inverted races and 3-4, I think, in non-inverted races in that tournament. So that's really what carried me as far as I went.
Yeah. So real quick, you did mention kind of, playing for that, like kind of that honor and the points, of course, for, that first place finish. We had one very fast first place finish tonight. Jay Meisher completed the seed in 1 hour and 19 minutes and 1 second tonight. And I obviously did not, was not watching him, but he did, manage to make some decisions and, kind of hit the route on this one in a way that doesn't look like anybody else really did. The next, second place time is Gamachu with 1 hour 26:14. So he's clear by 7 minutes on a field of very, very strong runners there.
Yeah, you can definitely see how you can get up there pretty easily, though. Like if you do go into Swamp right like I did right off the bat and just not skip Quake. Like aside from that, like once you get up the mountain, then it's like if I had Quake when I went up the mountain, I was 100% going into Turtle Rock. I had everything else I needed. So I guess as long as you just got to go into ice and get the cane as well. As long as you're someone who's willing to go in there without the cane, I guess that's something that could set other people back. Is a lot of people don't like going into ice now without the cane. I'm kind of just whatever. If
right, I think that's probably going to be
go in there, right?
Yeah, I think when we check out the post race chats and everything, once the race is completely done, I think that's going to be the thing that a lot of people are saying, darn, why did I put off Ice Palace? I think it's going to be the thing that's kind of the common lament on this one.
Yeah, not the problem I had where why did you skip left side swamp, right? Like I had no problem finding that cane in ice. That was easy peasy for me.
Right.
My problem was finding the fire rod. I did not want to break logic. When the 125 mark hit, I was like, "There's at least 1 or 2 people finished." I'm like, I'm getting crushed. I could just feel it.
Yeah, that fire rod was really all we got up there on the mountain until we were able to get into Turtle Rock there. So, I think both of you ended up at about the same time going up there in terms of where you were with the items and everything. And I think it made perfect sense having boots, book, mirror, hammer, everything in hand to clear every check on the mountain. It certainly made sense to break the logic and get up there, but it did take a little bit more fortitude to continue following that for the one item that you got up there on the mountain that you still had no like logical information on.
I also feel like I'm a little iffier to go to pod in this type of open mode race where there's only 1 bow instead of 2, where occasionally you could have gone there before and possibly gotten like a locked bow that might have allowed you to really skip a bunch of stuff. Like if you go there and it's bow locked when you're only looking for like 2 or 3 items, that can feel pretty bad because like you really want to start digging there when the other items could be or couldn't even be in there possibly.
Yeah, and that's a good point because this seed plays out, I think, quite differently. If the silver arrows that you guys picked up in Kakariko, if that was actually your first bow versus just the silver arrows item.
I've noticed massive differences of how this would have played out in several of these qualifier seeds just from that alone.
Yeah, this is actually the 3rd seed where pod's technically been required. I mean, this one you can avoid, but the other 2 were unavoidable.
Right. Yeah. That bow is that's something that I've kind of noticed in the races that I've watched and played in as well, is that bow is very much a key item in terms of blocking, a lot of the game, or a lot of the routing, I guess, in some of these games. So
I kind of forgot about that because the bow always used to be kind of one of the big items that you were looking for Go mode back in the day. But then when they kind of went to the progressive bows, it kind of didn't happen quite so much. And now we might be going back to that, I guess.
Yep. Clearmouse, you got any final thoughts for either of our runners from tonight?
I think maybe I was just curious. So I think Fry, you mentioned earlier that this was not your first qualifier. Is this your what qualifier? I guess are you guys currently on?
This is my 5th, actually.
Oh,
so.
5th. Okay.
Yeah, you like running ollies, right?
Well, the ones that I can. Going forward, it's going to be a lot easier in terms of the ones I can make. So I've made the ones that I can so far because I don't know how many I'm going to make going forward.
Yeah, this is my 3rd so far. I was originally not gonna do this one, but then I was just like, I can do it. Kind of regret it now, but it's all right.
That's funny. I had the exact same feeling. I was like, do I want to do this? Do I not? All right, I'll go for it. And now I'm kind of like, maybe I shouldn't have done that after all.
Oh, but you guys got boots, unlike the last 2.
I avoided them as long as possible too.
Well, at least they were present in this game.
That was the one thing I actually had going for me, is I actually got to the boots early in this seed. Other than that,
yeah, it definitely did speed up your routing through, Village and Thieves Town and all of that, the early Dark World stuff that you guys did. Having those for an extra 10-15 minutes there was a very noticeable difference.
Yeah, like I started at Hype Cave, which seemed kind of logical since you knew the glove was over on Hylia Island there, so I was going to go in there, and then I went into Hype Cave, and I'm like, oh, I can beat Swamp right now. Well, let's go in there, I guess. Why not?
Yeah, and I obviously I don't have a tracker up in front of me when I do these as commentary, so I'm like, where the heck is Fry? Oh, right, we got a hook shot, and we can do all a Swamp. So it made sense.
Me as well. Like, yeah, you don't expect to be able to at that point in time. And
right, you were 15 minutes in. You're not thinking about clearing. One of the Dark World dungeons that has more requirements to it. So I don't know if, I think, and Flip, I think you made the same realization, but made that decision of, well, if I can put this off and get to it with boots, then, bully for me, right?
Yeah, I'm usually so gung-ho about Swamp, too. Like, I don't know. It just going in right away felt wrong with knowing where the mitts were for me, but, it was the right thing to do the seed, but what are you going to do?
There's always the next qualifier.
Yeah.
True.
And yeah, I was actually gonna say, I mean, just like I like the fact that you guys actually took like really contrasting and different routes, right? And also like just different strategies, right? Flipheal, you mentioned earlier that you really didn't like like skipping things in qualifiers. Fry didn't quite take that same mentality. Flipheal, I would also say that maybe outside of a little just like a little longer try next kill, you're pretty solid for a lot of your boss fights. Fry had us going on the edge of our seats. In this case, I think there was blind. I think there was cold stare. You almost got grabbed at Mothula. like we actually had to like start making note of when you end up having a fairy in your bottle because you were oh yeah, that's right, you took a death.
Laser Bridge was the one where we did not realize you had picked up the fairy. We're like, oh no.
Yeah, so certainly quite the contrast between you guys' runs.
Oh my god!
So thank you so
also,
much.
That Trinex, I was not expecting that ice rod shot to not miss. That threw me off so bad. I was like, what?
Yeah, you had a very exciting Trinex fight, relatively speaking, for sure. Any other final thoughts from either of you guys on this seed or the qualifiers in general or life at large?
Fingers crossed things go a little better going forward. Say thanks a lot to you guys for commentating. Thanks a lot to the trackers. Thanks a lot for restreaming. And good luck to everyone else in the tournament going forward.
Yeah,
much, and just rush Mountain and do Swamp next time.
Yeah, all good for future Flipheal, to note.
And a big thank you tonight to Drossi, who helped us get set up with the restreaming, and an even bigger thank you to Sammy Moss Sammy did an excellent job tracking for us and kind of keeping
thank you
us
so much.
keeping us on track when we were. I say we, but it was mostly me, just kind of rambling off about other stuff. So, very big thank you to Sammy for helping us out.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I certainly want to echo. Thank you again for Flipheal and saltyphry for letting us restream you. This race was a ton of fun. Lots of action, lots of drama, and we got boots. So, you know, I'm certainly very happy as a commentator. Thank you again so much, Sammy. This was your awesome tracker. Really hope to see you soon again. And of course, Will, thank you so much. It was a blast.
Yep. So for those of you who are looking forward to future qualifiers, the next one will be on Tuesday. It is at 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, which is, I think, 6 o'clock p.m. UTC time. So if you are interested, you can check out. It will be somewhere probably on the SpeedGaming family of channels. But also, if you are not, you can check out the Discord, which is linked in the chat very helpfully. And you can see the full schedule as well as, you know, how to join in and jump in. If you've been watching some of these and think, hey, this looks fun, feel free to just jump on in. The qualifiers are open to everyone. And, you know, best of luck if you do, and best of luck to our runners in their future races as well for the qualifiers.
Yeah, and best of luck, of course, to you as well. You are also running these qualifiers, I believe, Will, right?
Yeah, I've donked around a little bit, but I've survived at least score-wise, so I can't complain too much.
Surviving is important, as we've seen on Fry's side tonight. Surviving is the most important part of Rando.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it and hoping to make another appearance in the tournament again this year.
All right, yeah. So certainly, yeah. Best of luck, of course, for the remaining qualifiers and to make the top 128. And of course, until then, have a great night, and there will be lots more rando on the horizon.